Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/Malicious Compliance. In today's episode, want me to come into work while throwing up? Okay. My grass will be immaculate. Where is my mind? Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Want me to come into work while throwing up? Okay. I work at a crappy fast food place, and because of my age I sadly can't get a different job yet. A couple of days ago I was throwing up a lot. I had to work 5 to 12 and I had already called out this month. I called my boss telling him I couldn't come in because I was throwing up. His exact words were, "We have plenty of trash cans and a bathroom. See you at 5. Then he hung up. I was very mad, but I'm also a very petty person, so I thought okay bet. And went to work. I was obviously not feeling well and everyone could tell when I got there. My boss put me on the line, food making, and told me to push through it. I worked for about 30 minutes before I started getting nauseous. I waited until right before I was about to puke, ran to my boss hunched over, and threw up right on his shoes. Multiple customers saw this and started gagging. I looked up at my boss, smiled, and said I couldn't make it to a trash can. Sorry. Let's just say he allowed me to go home. Gosh, you should tell anyone who will listen. It to eat there. You likely had a stomach flu/bug and you were put on a station to massively spread it to customers. That's disgusting. It's also illegal. I just renewed my ServSafe certification and learned an employee who handles food has to stay home until they've been vomit or diarrhea free for at least 24 hours. I didn't have either, thankfully. I have stomach problems. It isn't contagious at all. That was the only reason I even agreed to come in, is because I knew I wasn't contagious. That was fantastic, MC. I'm sorry you were put into that situation, but you literally did the best thing possible. He's a better man than I. I would have thrown up into the food prep area, shutting the whole place down for a good while. Well, anyone puking shouldn't be making food for others. It is supposed to be a basic rule. It is a basic rule. Manager undoubtedly thought, oh, slacker kid is lying to me, and told him to show up or get wrecked. Then he realized, yep, kid actually is sick. It's illegal pretty much everywhere in the US to work in a licensed food service or restaurant with those symptoms. Ugh. If I recall correctly, I believe I read something recently that said the main cause of outbreaks from restaurants is because they make such employees work. Glad you puked on his shoes and that customers saw. That's so messed up. The manager totally deserved it. You said you can't get another job because of your age. Is the problem that most businesses in your area don't hire minors? It takes a special kind of bastard to tell his sick employees to come into work and use the workplace trash cans if they feel sick. What kind of power trip is this guy on? Probably assumes the employee, who was apparently a minor and quite possibly 14 to 15, was lying because they didn't feel like coming to work. Then put them close to food where the smell would definitely not help the nausea and could contaminate the food. I know Opie said it wasn't from illness but from a chronic issue, but did the manager know that? It's time for Europe's favorite game show on Reddit, USA or third world country? I never understood that about the food service industry. You cannot come in sick, there are laws on that, but they never want to accept that and force you to come in. Sometimes people go in sick because they can't afford to not go in. The entire system is broken, at least in the US, and it won't get fixed without something terrible happening. That sounds like when I was called in on my day off. I was 17, the Naomi would have just hung up on them, and I told my store manager if I have to vomit it will be on your shoes no matter where you are. She didn't believe me. The assistant store manager sent me home right after it happened and berated the store manager. Are you freaking serious? They have never called off sick before. You go to call them in on their day off. They say no, I'm sick, and you don't believe them. I wish they would have aimed for your shirt, and I hope it never comes out of your shoes. I was given the rest of the week off paid. At least the assistant store manager had some sense. My grass will be immaculate. So, a few months ago, I got a letter from the city stating I had to cut my grass or get a fine. It wasn't exceptionally long. It rained 3 to 4 times a week for a month and a half, so I was waiting for it to be dry enough to not choke my old mower. The letter said the exception to foliage height was in gardens. Well, now it's 103 most days, and the heat and drought killed my first attempt at gardening, and the weeds have taken over. I was going to pull them, but there's also natural sunflowers and some really nice wildflowers coming in. So my yard is pristine and edges are sharp, but I've let my garden get taken over by nature. F***ck them. I'll try again in the fall. Tell them you are creating a native prairie habitat garden for butterflies, assorted bugs and birds. This is the way. OP. Research native pollinator plants in your area. There may be opportunities to get free plants for this reason. We got 18 native pollinator plants earlier this summer and a nifty little sign that says it's a native plant pollinator garden. Land of the free, unless your grass is too long. Are you mocking the people who live in the freest country in the world? Remember that every other country in the world is unfree, corrupt, and a shithole. Maybe Canada goes slightly better with their freedom because it's freedom to ban riding a train unless vaccinated with an experimental, not a vaccine. Because people from the freest country in the world don't understand. Years ago, when I was a kid, my mom always had a problem with this one guy down a side street. He was an old crabby recluse who liked to wander the neighborhood in order to find violations he could report to the city, just because he could. Made him feel important, I guess. Well, we already had a bunch of native plants because she is an environmental person, but it was getting pretty high and got the attention of this guy. Summoned by the city for a hearing. What does she do? Goes and gets the front lawn certified as a natural wildlife habitat, official sign, and everything. On the day she was summoned, mom goes in dressed to the nines and armed with lots of paperwork. Guy who reported her doesn't even show, and once the judge saw the official certificate and heard the story, he not only waived the fine but congratulated her. And that's how mom beat a court summons for her yard. A letter from the city usually means some Karen in the neighborhood needed something about which to complain, and your lawn was nominated. If you find out who it was, make a midnight run and throw some noxious plant seeds in their garden area, something really hard to eradicate once it gets going, like bamboo. Sunflowers and other wildflowers are beautiful. Good luck with them. If you prefer your lawn as it is now, with native plants, flower, etc., check HOA rules. If there's nothing specific against it, you're okay. If they say no, check local ordinances for having natural habitat for biodiversity. If they don't have anything, check local, state status on this. Also contact your eco-conservation society. Cities and states are beginning to understand wild lawns are less prone to drought, are good for natural predators, specific birds which eat bugs such as mosquitoes, gnats, harmful aphids. Natural lawns require less resources, water, fuel consumption. In essence, your biodiversity lawn takes care of your area. Post a sign on your lawn saying biodiversity at work. It might get the neighbors talking in a good way. Many towns the rule is 6-inch. I go away for the summer and I'll cut my grass down to the dirt right before I leave and not water it to keep it from growing and to have it bake in the summer sun. When I'm home I'll cut it to 4-inch or so instead of lower like most people, just so I don't have to waste water on it and just water it when it rains. During my time as a county extension agent, I had to make several visits to properties with wildflower gardens that got ticketed for weeds and non-mowing. As long as someone with credentials can identify the plants as wildflower species, you can often fight off the weed board. Where is my mind? So, say what you will about political nonsense, but this is a little story from when I was in my 20s and thought I was clever. When I was I found myself married in Tennessee to a young man whose parents were official members of the Williamson County Republican Club. One day his mother asked if I would be able to play piano for an award show they were having. Why did she ask me? Because I was a flaming red-haired tattooed person who had her own little indie rock band in Nashville at the time. Makes sense. I just remember being like, "Mom, I don't really, play piano like that." "Oh, you'll be fine. Please, do it for me? You just have to play soft stuff while everyone walks in and exits." This was a woman you absolutely could not say no to, so I hesitantly obliged. So, basically what I did was I played the same 2 songs over and over and over for 4 hours with flourished embellishments. Carefully chosen songs with hidden messages. Creep by Radiohead and Where Is My Mind by the Pixies. No one ever knew, and if they did, they never said anything. So I made my mother-in-law happy and managed to maliciously comply, smiling and nodding when people passed by, all the while sending my own little childish message of rebellion. The chairman's wife politely said, "You play beautifully," as she was exiting, and man, I'll just never forget that moment. This was in 2011 or 2012, and I'm not gonna lie, it still gives me a little smile when I think about it. These are the kind of people who think Rage Against the Machine used to be unpolitical. Whoever thought that? Their first album is literally the Vietnamese monk setting himself on fire in protest. Or those that think Born in the USA is a patriotic song celebrating the USA. That sounds like a scene from the Blues Brothers playing Rawhide. What kind of music do you usually have here? Oh, we got both kinds. We got country and western. I was at a wedding at which the bridal party walked down the aisle to a piano version of Sweet Child of Mine, Guns N' Roses. It was lovely. Yep. My nephew asked me about wedding stuff and I told him to throw out the old stuffy crap and do whatever they wanted. Oh, I can assure you that someone there caught on and probably thought it was brilliant. There's always someone who doesn't want to be at those things, and you probably provided them with more entertainment than you know. At work there was a holiday-themed buffet on my floor, and they clearly chose a random playlist of music. No one in HR was paying enough attention to notice The Night Santa Went Crazy was played near the end. I still wish I could have seen their faces if they were listening to it though. As a Republican, I love Radiohead. I would have been delighted to hear that, but probably sick of it by the second hour. Many years ago, my sibs and I took our mother out to dinner at her favorite restaurant, a cute family Italian place with a piano. We're talking while the pianist is playing smooth dinner tunes in the background. Suddenly my brother asks, "Is that Smells Like Teen Spirit?" we say in unison. He went on to play Guns N' Roses, Elvis Costello, Soundgarden, and Sinatra. We tipped big. I would have been more malicious by playing as if I didn't know the first thing about playing piano. To the protests of the woman, I would have replied, "Hey, you insisted. I can play the first part of For Release. Right hand only. So on repeat, sounds about right." If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.